Are you truly living your passion? What have you always wanted to do, dreamed of, but there was a voice in your head that said, no, could I really do that? I mean, did you ever want to fly to the moon, live on another planet, run for president? You're going to learn how to do that and so much more right here, right now on the Scale or Fail Show. Welcome to the Scale or Fail Show. I am your host and business mentor, Allison Maslin. I am the CEO and founder of Pinnacle Global Network, where we help business owners like you grow and scale your companies and reach your dreams. So I am really excited today to introduce an amazing woman, a force to be reckoned with. And I had the honor of working with her in Pinnacle Global Network as well. Named one of the best keynote speakers of 2019, Jade Simmons spent the first few years of her career performing as a classical concert pianist. Following an artistic epiphany, she pivoted from playing the piano to impressing audiences to using the piano as a vehicle by which to provide the inspiration, information, and entertainment that profoundly moves them instead. Jade has been brought in by major corporations like MassMutual, Royal Bank of Canada, Dow, Raytheon, the Hershey Company, Genentech, Valak, Pfizer, and nationwide to redefine purpose, inspire seismic shifts in mindset, and activate audiences to go out and instantly start living more consequential lives of impact. And I think we're going to dive into all of that today. But Jade, so happy that I know you've been busy campaigning, and we're going to talk about all of this stuff. Because one thing I didn't mention in her bio is that she's actually running for president of the United States. Hello. So welcome.
Little detail.
Yes. Hi. So happy that you're here.
No, it's awesome to be here, Allison. I've been looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, me too, Jade. And so, I've gotten to know Jade. She was a member in Pinnacle Global Network, and just really such a superstar. You actually spoke at one of our events. You had everybody mesmerized, Jade. And so, thank you for taking the time. I know there's a lot going on right now. So let's back up. So I know some of you were like, what? She's running for president? Like, what's that about? So hang on, we'll get to there. But I'd like for you to just, for the people that don't know you, you have an interesting background. You are an accomplished pianist, sought after speaker, a business owner, now presidential candidate. Can you just share a little bit of your journey to where you are now?
Yeah, I keep trying to figure out what's the shortest way to get from A to B in that story. And I think the easiest way is to maybe put it under a theme. And that theme could be said to be reinvention. Mm-hmm. And if I look at why I've reinvented in the past, it's always been for reasons of purpose, as well as reasons of impact. So my original dream, I would say, what was your original childhood dream, was simply to be a classical concert pianist. And I did all the work required to do just that. All of my schooling was in music and piano performance, specifically classical music. I went to Northwestern and then Rice University, all the fancy conservatories that I've either done music camps or studied with those teachers, done those competitions. So I was pretty much on that straight and very narrow path to the world of being a classical music performer. And along the way, I started incorporating speaking and eventually storytelling and eventually inspiration into my concert experience. That took on a life of its own, which opened up a world of professional speaking. A lot of people call it motivational speaking. I call it activational speaking. And so today I'm brought in by many of the corporations you mentioned, many of the organizations, leadership organizations, people who are looking to really create some sort of I say, on the spot transformation in their people. And what's been really powerful is we have the luxury of being able to decide who we partner with. And it's always these companies who are having this aha moment, Allison, where they're saying, I think we have to prioritize our people even before we talk about the bottom line. I think we have to really think about our people even before we focus on profit. And so those have been my best partners. And today, I'm running as president as someone who believes the nation is ready for transformation and that people have to be prioritized, and so does purpose. I know we'll get to that later, but it's that theme of reinvention that's kind of got me here. I'm also a minister as well as an author. And I would say the primary job that I have is the opportunity to help people see the potential in themselves that they have for greater impact on the world around them.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that all really does tie together. You've got so many things, but it really is that theme. And I know you've called this campaign Operation Restoration.
Yeah.
And it's kind of Operation Reinvention too, in a sense. And so just to back up to, so Jade has been, you've been a very successful speaker, major corporations all over the world. I just remember you were always on a plane here or there, going to Australia, big demand. And you stood up at one of our events and said, I'm going to run for president. Yeah. And we were all like, well, okay then, Okay. And then, as things evolved, here you are. So can you just talk a little bit of how you decided that you wanted to run for president? Why? What's been the driver of this?
Well, the announcement that you're talking about was a day after you had asked us as a part of the exercises, what's our BHAG? Our big, hairy, audacious dream. And I had tons of those where business was concerned and had wholly expected to come in that room, as you made us promise we were going to tell everybody what that dream was and announce to you many of my, billion-dollar business goals and what those dreams were. That was the plan. And then in the moment, I felt a very loud voice in my spirit say, be honest. Be honest about the real thing. And the truth was, I had been in discussions with my family and with my team for the last couple of years about considering a run for office. And so the motivating factors were not personal ambition, was not popularity, and it was not profit. Because let me tell you, if you want any of those things, do not run for president. I beg you. Right? This is not the route you take for personal ambition. Exactly, it's the opposite of a career builder. We've lost business, Allison. Many of those same corporations who say, listen, we can't afford to be political, and then with COVID hitting immediately, because my business is grounded in large gatherings, so we dealt right away with a blow to the business, and putting on top of that, this political move made us untouchable in a lot of ways. And I also say, this is not a popularity contest. As an international and inspirational speaker, I had the luxury of knowing that by the time I got off that stage, you were going to love me because you were going to love yourself even more than you did an hour before. And so now I'm in a completely different sphere where whenever I speak, I am opening myself up to incredible attack, incredible criticism. I've been joking that I've probably been insulted in the last 2 months more than in my entire 42 years on the planet. So when you do something like this, the motivation has to be pure and it has to be right. And a few years back, around 2015, I sensed that our nation was really struggling and would be struggling at an intense level with race relations. My father's a civil rights activist. Race is something that I actually enjoy speaking about. Imagine someone saying that. I think it's a powerful conversation that we get to have, because when we have it powerfully, we find out there's not that much that separates us. At the core. Externally, there are lots of things that separate us, create division, create inequality. And that was something that was burning on my heart. The other thing was I was really getting personally sick and tired of the political division we were seeing in the nation, because I didn't see it as actually serving people. And thirdly, I will say, I felt we were coming into a season where the economic disparities we saw, some of the injustices we saw, whether it be racially, economically, or educationally, were about to be exacerbated. And I knew we were coming into a point where you need a certain type of compassionate, but also tough leadership that could drive us through this particular period. I'd be lying if I said I knew COVID-19 was going to do what it did, or that the murder of George Floyd was going to have the effect. Those two things alone have revalidated for us our decision on January 1st, really, to run this race. And so we feel confirmed in it. We hear people all over the nation saying they also felt politically homeless. And we're now giving them the alternative. We're excited to really be filling a void.
So talk about that for a minute, since we're right here. What is that, the foundation of the campaign?
Yeah.
What is the message that you're sharing most? What do you think people are wanting to hear?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of
Mm-hmm.
what's coming from your heart and out into the world right now?
The movement that, and we really call it a movement, Allison, even more so than a campaign. One of the things we knew we would have to do is function entirely different than what people had seen before. If we were going to be really preaching the message of restoration, we couldn't afford to be pigeonholed by any political boxes, by any preconceived notions or associations. So the most difficult thing we've done is that I'm running as a complete independent, and literally the political affiliation is unaffiliated, which means there's no Democratic Party backing me. There's no Republican Party backing me. We also decided that our platforms would be determined by the people. So people say, what's your stance on this? Where's your policy on this? We want a page with everything outlined. And we have honestly refused to do things how people have demanded, because what they were demanding is what was already being seen. And so every time we release policy, it's based on what's America hurting with right now. So we led with wanting a more humane economy, to be a producer nation and not a consumer nation. I know that resonates with you, because everyone who works with you, we are producers. We believe we are called to put something out to the world that's going to better the lives of others. And I think as a nation, we need to function that way. We got hurt by our consumerism this time around. You think about it, our companies weren't here on American soil. We had to outsource for PPE, the things we needed the most. And so what if the nation now functioned more entrepreneurially? What if we helped so many of our citizens who have these incredible ideas, incredible plans and projects be supported? I wish everybody could have Pinnacle, right? And Allison Maslin helping them through every day of their business. But we're meeting business owners, Allison, who say, man, I've been through so many bankruptcies. I did everything wrong the first time around. I wish I could have help. And they can't afford many of the resources that some of us can to get help at the highest level of business. They need it at that incubator level. So we're looking to really be a source and a resource for entrepreneurs and small business owners as well. We saw with that first stimulus package, so many small businesses were left out. So we talk a lot about really revitalizing the economy in a way that it works for more people. You will hear me focus a lot on restoring race relations. I think that's going to be vital in how we move forward. And so what I've done unapologetically, and it has been controversial for some, is that I'm excited about being a president for all. I think anybody who's ever been with me, the people at Pinnacle, when they heard me spoke, would never think that I'm someone who discriminates, but they would see me as an equal opportunity president. But I think this is a season where we also need leadership that will be a champion for underserved demographics. So you'll hear me propose plans that specifically affect African Americans, that specifically affect immigrants, that specifically affect small business owners, that specifically affect women, because this to me is a time for specificity, because we're seeing people being affected in very specific ways.
I love that. I love everything you just shared. It's so powerful. And as far as the business owners go, we make up the 45% of the economy. I mean, it really putting the power back in the hands of the people to be able to take your gifts, like the gifts that you're sharing right now with the world, that business owners can take their gifts, their skills, and make a difference and have the support to do that.
That's right.
We really can develop as people, a thriving nation. So I think, and they're feeling the brunt of it right now with everything that's going on. And we should talk about that.
Yeah.
And I love everything that you just said about the support of those underserved sectors of, our humanity.
That's right. And that's what it is. It's the human race, as cheesy as that sounds. If you really think about it, I had an incredible conversation with his nickname is a blind man with vision, Hein Wagner. And he is based in South Africa. He's been blind since birth. And we talked about the luxury of being blind.
Wow.
He says you could not pay him to have sight. The things that he's accomplished in his lifetime as a man without sight kind of makes all of us go, what are we complaining about? The things that he does. But one of the things I asked him about is, what is the luxury you have? Because you can't see people. You can't see skin color. And so it makes it an absolute necessity that he has to judge people by what they're giving off, by what they're saying, and by what he's feeling from them. And I say, if we look at skin, we all have it. And it really was just given to us to protect our internal organs. It's a layer of protection.
Yeah.
Just happens to be, I think God was creative and he gave us all different colors and shades and hair textures and body sizes. But at the end of the day, we're humans who want to live productive, powerful lives. And why not help each other do that? Why not put more into the world than we take from it?
And I do believe, I've thought a lot about this, and, it's just, it's been the straw that broke the camel's back. It's just been, so beyond time. And I think it's just, people are like, they're just over it. Like, it just is tired of talking about it. Like, change has to happen. Yeah. And I also think it really is important that it happens with our children.
Yes.
It's how people are raised, right? It's the things that they hear, and, and then they grow up, they don't even know why they think that way.
And it's powerful because the kids get it. My father, and this will sound wild, but we grew up in Charleston, South Carolina. And most people know it as a beautiful tourist area. I grew up there, so you take the beauty of it for granted until you come back home. But now, unfortunately, Charleston's reputation has been marred. 5 years ago, we had the massacre at Mother Emanuel Church there. So 9 people passed away, were murdered by a young man named Dylan Roof. When you look at his history, Allison, you saw a man who spent a lot of time filling himself with rhetoric. He listened to a lot of different radio shows and propaganda that told him he was somehow being disserviced by the mere presence of African Americans in society. And he heard what he was listening to as marching orders and acted on that. So if that is that easy, how much would it also be easy to simply now translate and transmit messages that say the opposite? And one of the reasons that I'm running, again, unapologetically as a non-politician, is because I believe communication is going to be the number one critical component for the next leader. And they can't communicate in a way that intentionally instigates division. They also can't communicate ineffectively. Or we're not only going to be communicating to each other, between states, we're going to be communicating internationally. And if we're serious about not only the reputation, but the safety and security of the nation, communication is going to have to be effective. How we speak to China, how we speak to Iran, how we deal with Russia, it's going to be critical. We can't be easy to read, and we can't be emotionally manipulated, and we can't make erratic calls in terms of leadership. And so I'm proud to offer up that skill, because I feel like that is going to be the number one demand of the next leader.
You know what, that is, and I think it's very under addressed. And it really is. If you look at successful companies, strong company cultures, what does it come down to? It comes down to leadership, and it comes down to communication.
That's right.
And how you say things, how people, translate that and feel elevated,
That's good.
So that's so good. I could go on and on here. This is powerful for me. And, how do you translate what you've been doing, Jade, in your business?
Sure.
So, because some of you were like, well, why all of a sudden president? But,
Right.
You've kind of been doing this for individuals, for, business owners, small groups, in a way that has potential to, taking that and then shifting it to have potential mass impact.
That's right.
And even cultural paradigm shifts.
Well, and you're very polite in the way that you phrase that, Allison. Everybody else is not as polite. So the way that it usually comes at me is, who the heck do you think you are?
Yeah.
And what in the world qualifies you to do this? Why don't you just start with, I've gotten mayor. Why don't you just start with the PTA? Why don't you just? And so when we talk about why this, why now? This is not an ego move. It's not a grab for power. To be quite honest, I'd be much more comfortable staying in the plans that I had made for 2020 than doing what I'm doing now. And so if you look at the plans that you've made, you have to ask yourself, are you just now operating on what you want to do? Or are you filling a void you were called to step into? And so when I look at this moment, the reason I'm running now instead of later is because the moment requires a top-notch communicator who can talk and listen and understand between the lines. I don't know your political affiliation, Allison. We've never talked politics before. Yet you've said, you know what? I agree with so much of that. That resonates with me. And we're having that happen now with people who consider themselves to be former fans of Bernie Sanders when he was running and are very upset he's not running. And we also have conservative Christian pastors on the right who are saying this is exactly what we were looking for. We have Native Americans who know that I run proudly and openly as a Christian who say we have a very complicated past with Christianity, yet we still can imagine ourselves being served by you. And that kind of diversity in being able to address the variety of needs is going to be number one. I've had to do that in business. So many of the time people will say to me, many of my Black friends will say, how are you going to deal with a culture of white supremacy when you're going to be around white men most of the time? And I say, well, I've already been around white men most of the time. I know what that is. The other thing is that I don't see being a woman. I don't see being African American. And I don't see not being a politician as a deficit. I see them all as bonuses. Mm-hmm. So in an era of a George Floyd, what a bonus it is to understand the African American experience and try to lead the nation through it. What a bonus it is as a Black woman to have so many friends and loved ones who are not African American, who I can say, listen, I understand what she's saying and it's not racist. Oh, listen, I understand that and it is racist. Or, to have that distinction and nuance is what we need now, Allison. And so as a speaker who is called in to help work with leaders, those leaders I'm called in to help have to now lead teams, first of all, through tremendous periods of change and disruption. Mm-hmm. And before it was kind of just talk, right? When we have disruption, when this day comes, here's what you should do. And lo and behold, here we are. And the nation needs to be led through disruption from a position not of fear, Allison. You posted at the very beginning of COVID, you warned us not to allow fear to be the thing that drove us, even as we took precautions, even as we cared for ourselves. You also warned us that the best thing we could do is make sure our bodies were healthy and in good condition. That was going to be the number one defense. That was before we knew COVID would have people would have extreme issues if they had comorbidity, if they were in bad health before. So it was like you were saying, hey, listen up before we get too far into this. And This is a season that I don't believe our leaders can afford to lead from a place of fear. And if you look at it, whether you're looking at the president or Vice President Biden or either party, both have led from a place of fear. And they've taught us, listen, you've got to vote this way or else this really scary thing is going to come from the other side. And that keeps us in a place of insecurity and animosity. So I believe now to run as an independent, which I've been my entire life, allows people to be able to trust that my motivation is them and nothing else. So I feel like I've been set up really powerfully. for this moment. And people can, I'm sure you'll probably scroll this on the screen, but they can go to operationrestoration2020.com. We have a very special section about my story where you can understand how each phase of my life and business applies to the job of president today.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Jade, so much. My brain's going ding, 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 ding. I mean, you've been in there with some top corporate leaders, standing toe to toe, leading audiences of thousands of people to help elevate them. And that's really what we need right now. And what you were saying before, I mean, fear is a disease. And I believe there's so much, being in as a homeopath for many years,
right.
Really our system of health is based on fear, a fear model, and doesn't mean, the doctors are, I'm not saying they're aligned in trying to scare people, but it's the way of, it's like the boogeyman, well, let's strengthen you so that you are able to handle what is going on and also have confidence that you are stronger than you think you are.
That's right.
But I do think that the actual fear that's going on, unfortunately, is lowering people's immune system. It's creating the opposite of what we want. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do all the things. But I would love to see people on the news talking about how to boost your immune system and how to,
preventative care even will have to be,
eating healthy. That's a big problem here in this country is just, obesity and diabetes and all kinds of things. So not to get off topic, but I love what you're really saying is let's empower people, right? Instead of suppress them.
Let's empower them to do better. So I think what we've done is we've either demonized one side or the other. So for instance, take one of the controversial issues of how do we deal with corporations? How do we treat them? And so you'll have one side that says they're all evil. Wealthy people are all evil. It's demonization, right? So then that creates a certain kind of relationship between rich and poor, have and have not. Or you have on another side that'll say, well, poor people are poor because they want to be, because they're not trying. So you have these two competing rhetorics that end up at a place of fighting. And for the people themselves, there's a stalemate. And so what happens is our politics promotes that rhetoric because it keeps those people in power. If I can make you afraid of the other side, you'll always vote for me. And so we're even seeing, you say you don't see the media talking about that. Well, you won't right now at least see the media even talking about the fact that I exist, Allison, because my narrative is not the one that they're used to sharing. It doesn't fit neatly into the red or the blue box. And whether we like it or not, even the media has a side politically. And so we've been having to work around that by going directly, first of all, to independent media outlets, people like you who have podcasts and just want to tell a powerful story. And that has been getting our word out. We just had a really cool mainstream media breakthrough that happened. And people are honestly angry now that they didn't know I've been here for 7 months. And so we believe a large part of that conversation is empowerment. And what does that look like to empower people? And I think that's a very American thing. So to me, it's a new American dream that we're promoting. And we're seeing incredible buy-in from people all over the political spectrum, which tells me people are feeling, firstly, politically homeless. And they're also ready now to do something drastically different than before. And that's very exciting for us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, talk about being empowered. How, one of the things that's coming up for me is, wow, running for president, right? I mean, that is like, takes a lot of courage because, you are going to get so much criticism and things like that. Plus, like you said, it has, it has impacted some on the business side.
Of course.
So, I want to talk about that a little bit, but how do you adjust your mindset in this presidential race? I mean, how do you deal with the naysayers, the haters, the comments? I think everybody, we'd like to learn that just for life in general.
Still, listen, I'll tell you what, it's the same thing, Allison. Probably everyone asked you right when COVID started, how are you dealing with this effect on your business? How are you adjusting your mindset? And if I had to guess, I would imagine that the mindsets you'd already been working to perfect and institute were exactly the mindsets that are getting you through this period. I know you always taught us we should always be thinking about what's next. What's the next thing that your customer needs? And then start creating that now. Don't wait on that. Be ahead of it. And so, we had been toying with the idea of really creating a powerful virtual presentation to offer to our clients into the future. But we were having so much success on the live event side that we delayed on that virtual presentation. Well, COVID hit and we thought, sure wish we hadn't delayed on that. But we jumped right in, created a high-end virtual presentation, meaning we knew everybody was going to do what we're doing, right? They're going to hop on Zoom and just speak into the camera. But one of the ways that we had differentiated in business was to offer an elevated experience that was all-encompassing. So we invested right away into creating a concert hall experience that felt very similar to what I was doing in the live setting. And so that idea of reinvention remains key for us. In terms of dealing with naysayers, and I think part of this comes from being a person of faith, but also understanding just how people function, that we often operate out of our pain. So when someone says to me, who do you think you are? What I really hear is, I don't understand who I am yet. Mm-hmm. And the way that you're behaving now baffles me completely. So the easiest thing I can do is shoot it down because I don't understand it. Mm-hmm. And so when someone comes at me and says, there's no way you can do this. This is impossible. Where are you getting your money from? How are you? There's no way. What I hear is, and we do respond. People say, you shouldn't respond to the naysayers. Well, we operate this way. A couple ways we decide how to respond. We believe you don't ignore ignorance, that you're supposed to address it. So if we see a comment that is spewing or promoting something that is untrue or ignorant, we respond. We also believe that you should always respond in an uncommon way. And that if someone curses you, you bless them back. So when someone comes at me and tells me what I can't do, I start telling them that I believe in them. I believe that no matter who's told you you can't do something, that one day when you decide to step out and do the wild thing, you will find support. And even when people accuse you of doing it for the wrong motivation, you're going to keep moving because you understand there's a void that you need to step into. And when I tell you, it just, as a team, we get so much joy from the naysayers. It's not even funny. Plus, it helps your algorithms on social media. The haters do. So let them come. But I think the big mindset shift is understanding that how people respond to you is a sign of the times. It's a sign of what's necessary. Probably the hardest thing, Allison, the most disappointing thing, is that we've been probably treated the worst by women. And in my case, by Black women.
Really? Why? That's like...
Oh, and so when we made this map of our demographics and who we thought would kind of be our sure thing voters. And I will tell you, the people who we thought would be our sure things are not. The people who we didn't think would resonate with us are the ones who are hitting the ground for us, volunteering, donating. In African-American culture, historically in the US, most African-Americans have voted Democrat for the Democratic Party. And there's such fear now around the current president that there is a real wanting to rally to do anything to get him out of office. So my presence just coming on the scene looks like a threat to that goal. And so our argument has been, why waste this historical moment of change and disruption on simply getting something out? Why not ask ourselves, what would we like to go in? So instead of just voting to get someone out, how do we vote in a way that would put something powerful in? And then on the other side, my friends who are Christians or evangelicals supported the president, or at least the Republican Party, very heavily. And so they're struggling, but they're not feeling any more in alignment with the way that the president, his character, the way that he carries himself. But they still want to feel like they're voting where their principles are. So they're finding a home in us. But we've just decided that we have stopped trying to figure out who our people are. We're just going to keep speaking the message and allow to come to the table anyone who feels like they resonate. And so we now have this multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-religious coalition of people who just want to see a nation that works to allow the most people possible to thrive.
Yeah, that's interesting. And that's kind of what you stand for anyway, is
Yeah,
the multicultural and,
that's
this
right.
real mix. But yeah, it's interesting how it's like that in business too, right? You go after a certain target market and then you find those people aren't interested at
They
all. The
aren't it.
whole camp over here is,
That's
they're really
right.
good.
That's right.
And I think this also ties into this role of go giving. And,
Right.
we talk about that in Pinnacle based on the book, The Go Giver by Bob
Right.
Burke, which I love, is really showing up in the world of how can I support you instead of what can I get? And in
Yes.
turn, you know, you get more than you could ever have even imagined. So
Yeah.
how is the role of this service, go giving, in your business and in the campaign?
Yeah, I'll tell you, it is everything. It is everything, Allison. In the business, when COVID hit, it would have been easy to start freaking out that the engagements were no longer coming in. And our decision was, how can we serve the clients that can no longer book us right now? How
Mm.
can we serve them through COVID? So some of our first interactions were acts of service. Can we make a video for your team? Is there any other information you need from us? How are you needing to be inspired right now? And we were doing that at no cost. And people were shocked. The other thing we did that was difficult but powerful was in the beginning of COVID, when we were doing the math and looking at our bank accounts. We felt very good by what we had saved up and what was sitting, so we thought, in the coffers, until we realized that a lot of that money was deposits from events that hadn't happened or weren't going to ever happen. And before the companies came looking for their money, we sent it back to them. Oh my gosh, that was a hard thing to do, but it felt good because people were going, we weren't expecting these gifts. It felt like gifts to them. In the campaign, we said, we want to serve people all the way to the White House. Why should they just believe us and take our word for it and say, wait until January and then we'll serve you? So we've been serving in advance. And I'll tell you, the reward has already come. So I'm competitive. We all are, especially in Pinnacle. We are making a strategy to win this thing. It is doable. Legally, it is doable. We get to participate in the Electoral College and do all the things that all the other political parties do. But what we've done is release the outcome. And we've said each day, how can we have victory? And for us, daily victories come in providing some sort of hope, change, or transformation in the people who are discovering that we exist. And that is what keeps us going, because it's a very difficult road as an independent candidate. But the reward has been nobody's beholden to our voice or our ideology. We don't have to toe any party lines, and we can just speak freely and serve freely as well.
Yeah. So make that a win every day.
Every day.
And I think, gosh, if you can live life that way, right? We have big goals, but if you're waiting to be happy or feel a sense of accomplishment when you get there, what about all the life that you missed out on?
You really did. You really would. You really would. That's right.
Yeah. So a couple other things I want to talk about that you're so prolific, powerful with, making room for the unforeseen changes. What you call divine interruptions.
Yeah.
When they don't fit the master plan, right? Nobody was expecting COVID was going to pull the rug out from under us. I mean, we literally, that weekend, that before that Monday that everything shut down, we had a Pinnacle event. We were all together, those that could be there. And I'm so glad we were able to as a community. It was important. But, we knew it was coming. We didn't know it was going to be this extreme. Although, because we've helped them all pivot, a lot of them are actually having record months right now in business, which is like a blessing. But, how do you make room for this? How do you navigate, in being such a big player right now with all of the impacts?
I will say that, if I'm being honest, in earlier years, because I am such a planner, I fought all of the detours. And they would take me out for a bit because I was mourning my original plan. Now I can look back and look at those detours. I think of some of your own stories, particularly the one with your car where you ran yourself over. And I think that's not going to feel like a blessing in the moment. It's not going to feel like that. But in hindsight, there are these certain things that happen that change everything for the better in ways you could never have imagined. There's this powerful scripture that reminds us that no matter how big we dream, there are still things that we haven't even seen, that haven't even entered our hearts, our minds, or our eyes yet. So now I live expecting that the plans I'm making will be disrupted. I get excited. I get nervous if things are going too much according to plan. So now I make room in advance and I say, okay, this is a really powerful plan that we have made as humans here in this room, which likely means that whatever is going on in society, whatever God has for us, is going to shake this up a bit. So our job is just to be ready to execute in excellence. But then we must be flexible to move in a different direction and expect that the detour is not a detour. It's actually taking us exactly where we're supposed to go. So like everybody else, I mean, I love coming to your events because you give us so much paper to plan and dream. And I love being able to touch that and see that. But I even leave blank spaces on those sheets because I understand I'm only seeing half the picture. I've been following COVID, Allison, since the beginning of December. So I was shocked it wasn't in the media in the US until it hit. So I knew something was coming, but I didn't know it was going to look like this. So now we get excited about the interruption and we know it's actually not an interruption, it's an intervention. Mm-hmm. It's actually putting us exactly where we're supposed to be, but we can't function powerfully there if we don't do the work to be prepared and if we don't plan in advance to execute in excellence.
Yeah, no, I love everything you're sharing. And I do believe this is a time of awakening. I think Mother Nature was just like, hey, look, I'm tired. You haven't been listening, so you're done.
That's right.
For now.
That's right.
And, we're going to get this planet back on track. It's also forced people to, hey, stop, be home. I think there's definitely plus and minuses. I think there's some challenges, obviously, there with some homes that are struggling and there's all of that. But I do think it helps us relook at our priorities and also, as business owners, a chance to say, okay, well, we are really moving into the future and we've got a plan for this. AI is coming, down the pipeline. And so changes are going to continue to come. We have to be able to pivot,
that's right,
as this planet is pivoting too.
Yeah. The environmental impact, Allison. So what COVID did was, I feel it provided us with what I call a reset. Mm-hmm. Now, whether or not we took advantage of the reset's a different story. I do think we resisted it a little bit. We resisted it a lot. And my concern is that we didn't take advantage of this moment to really listen to what we were being told. You look at the break the environment got. I mean, carbon emissions went down. Italy had such a powerful improvement in their ecosystem that they are now deciding to make many of the restrictions they used during the lockdown be their norm. What if the US had committed to making things like renewable energy, ethanol production? What if we had decided we want to win at this too? We want to be the number one leaders where caring for the environment was concerned. We would be in a position to be the nation that produces the environmental friendly products. We would be the person that everybody would be coming to. We'd benefit economically had we made that commitment beforehand. And so to me, it's an incredible, hard lesson that we've had to learn. And I think, now as we bail out companies, we can say, hey, part of that repayment needs to look like more environmental protections now in what you're doing. We have leverage that I think we could use with justification. And so my challenge has been, if we have a moment to do things differently, you have to ask yourself, out of the options we have as leaders, will they take advantage of that moment powerfully? And if you can't see that, not based on what they say, but based on how they have lived and what that track record looks like, can you trust them to do it? And if you can't, we owe it to ourselves to consider other options.
Well, it's a very different conversation, Jade, than what you're hearing out there. Right now, it's like, doom and gloom. Mm-hmm. And, it really is, it weakens our mindset and, puts a lot of fear into our graduates out into the future and what they're facing. But if we could shift that conversation to look, here are all the opportunities, all the gaps, all the ways that we can transform our world, how we can transform humanity. Then you get everybody excited and look at the possibilities when we can come together that way. So I love the conversation that you have going, and this, you are talk about a mission, right? Talk about a mission. And I think that inspires others to go, gosh, am I really following my heart? Am I living my calling in this lifetime? What would you say to those people?
That has been our secret ulterior motive, Allison. People say, what are you really doing here? You can't possibly win. What do you want? Well, first of all, we believe we can possibly win it, and we are planning and strategizing for that. But the ulterior motive has been, and we've seen it already come into fruition, people see us making this audacious move. And they're thinking, the least I can do is write that book I've been threatening to write. The least I can do now is seriously consider launching out on that business that I've been threatening. The least I can do is be more impactful in my own home. The least I can do is take better care of myself. So we're watching people do what I was used to seeing from the stage, which is my purpose is to really activate people into being the boldest, the biggest version of themselves possible, trying to activate the nation now into being the biggest and the boldest and the most powerful it can be. And so we are excited that people now are saying, you know what, if she can do that, the least I can do is do the thing that I'm called to do. So we want people to look for moments now to fill the voids around you. You don't have to run for president, right? But maybe you might need to run for mayor. You might need to launch that business. You might need to write that book. And if you think of it this way, talk about doom and gloom, I like to put major, dire pressure on people and say, there are people who are literally waiting with bated breath to benefit from what it is that you have to offer, but haven't offered yet. So you don't have to wait around for some big, hairy, audacious dream to be fulfilled. You can do the small thing that's on your heart now that's really going to have major impact for the people who are waiting on it and don't even know that they're waiting.
Yeah. Wow. That's so, you're so speaking to my heart. And I think that people have felt suppressed. They felt they've had to settle in so many areas of their life. And I know you and I speak the same language here. This is what moves me. This is what helps, keeps me going. The fight out there for business owners to just really, operate at this high level of their heart, of their dreams, and make things happen. I built a trapeze in my backyard.
Yes.
Which, is kind of, it's not running for president, but it is a little crazy.
No, it is. I love it. I love it.
So I tell people, what's your trapeze? Like, you don't have to go build a full-size trapeze like the circus in your backyard. It really is about, what's the thing you've always wanted to do? And I love that you're out there and you're sharing this message with the world in the biggest way you possibly can, this big stage. And so, so what's happening the next few months, and so how people can follow you and, get involved.
Well, people always want to know where we stand on the issues. You can find that out at operationrestoration2020.com. You'll see a lot of video. On purpose, we put things on video versus reaming, text, because we wanted you to hear the policy from my heart and out of my own voice. So you'll see that there. You can follow us on Facebook, the same handle, Instagram, the same handle, Operation Restoration 2020. And just get connected. Help us spread the word. Again, we haven't seen a lot of traction in the mainstream media, but what's happening is people are picking this up and putting it on their shoulders themselves. If something resonates with you, share it with your community, and just let them know exactly what it is that's speaking to you. And you're going to find that people won't see it as politics. They will see it as powerful and as possibility. People are desperate, Allison, to know that there is a light at the end of this tunnel. And what they're really excited about is to know that I'm not positioning myself as the light. I'm saying that we all are. But in this moment, if we don't join together, then we're fractured and darkness prevails. So it's been an exciting time. We thank you in advance, those of you who will tune in and stay connected. And Allison, I just thank you for the opportunity to share the message and for the short time we had to work together. My plan was to just keep doing what we were doing, but it's you who encouraged us that if we feel something on our heart, whether or not it makes sense, it seems rational to those around us, that we have to move on it. And yours was one of the last pieces of advice that I heard. So my family can blame some of this on you, I'm sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
But you know, this is how we feel as a family. We were built to move. And so we're blessed by this move. And we thank you for supporting us in this way of just having us on so that I can speak from the heart here. It's really powerful. So thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for spending this time. And, you know, we want to get the message out there. I know the other Pinnacle members are excited to see what you're up to and learn. And also, you know, so many people are going to be hearing this for the first time going, Jade Simmons, who's that? And now they know. So keep speaking from your heart. Humanity needs you, you know, wherever this lands, wherever this lands, I know that there's going to be the next. And it's going to create this snowball effect. I love that you're speaking of elevation, you know, empowerment instead of fear.
That's right. So, that's the only way to do it. It's the only way to do it. Thank you so much, Allison.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, I end the show always with get out there and elevate yourself because you are worth it. And now with this, I mean, I think you could elevate yourself to a whole other world. So thanks, Jade.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. From my experience, business owners think way too small. In this disruptive marketplace, you have to stay innovative or you won't be here anymore. Business is not easy, but you don't have to do it alone anymore. We take you by the hand every step of the way so that you can finally take those hopes and those dreams and make them a reality. I'm Allison Maslin. I am the founder and CEO of Pinnacle Global Network. We guide and empower business owners around the globe to grow and scale companies that change the world. Pinnacle Global Network is a private mentoring and mastermind network where our business owner clients are partnered with the CEO for private mentoring and small group masterminds, the most amazing live events, and a vibrant community of supportive entrepreneurs. In Pinnacle, we work with business owners that are at the 6, 7, or 8-figure level. They're established business owners that have been running their companies 5, 10, 20, or more years, and they're either stuck at the same level and they just can't get beyond that, or they've been on a great trajectory, but they want a much bigger leap. So my father was my biggest inspiration, and he built the largest chain of women's clothing stores from 1955 to the early 80s. And he had such a passion for his work, and that really rubbed off on me. I started my first business when I was 19 and have built 10 companies over the last 3 decades. And so now in Pinnacle Global Network, I take that wisdom and experience for all those years in business, and I get to pay it forward with my team to help our clients really grow and thrive.
We have an amazing team at Pinnacle Global Network, and it all stems from Allison. Her core values, her vision, her mission in life, and she really has attracted like-minded individuals who have the same vision and mission for our clients.
The team are a bunch of rock stars. These are some of the most talented, diverse, exciting, experienced people you'll ever meet.
They have all grown multi-million-dollar businesses, and they all really, really care about the client's success.
We know what it's like to start a business. We know what it's like to grow a business. We know what it's like to scale a business. We've been there. We know the ups and downs. We've made a ton of mistakes, and we now get to share the benefit of our experiences with all of our clients.
What clients who work with us can expect is to get all of us. We bring 100% of our heart, our head, our knowledge, our experience, our team to what someone's going to solve.
There's a lot of support out there for the startup business owner. So we really focus on the established business owner because something happens, like you get traction in your business and all of a sudden you're the forgotten entrepreneur. Business owners work really hard and they get overwhelmed, they get exhausted. And the truth is that if you're the one that is delivering your product or service, your business cannot scale. And so we help our clients build a team-managed company so they're actually able to leave for a good period of time and the business continues to thrive. We work our Scale It method and help them figure out their multiplier so they can replicate themselves and their offering, and their business actually multiplies in profits and the number of people that they impact.
The Pinnacle community is just an incredible tribe of business owners that get together and speak the same language. Having people that are on the same path as you is so incredibly important and so powerful. It's a big part of our program.
When you come in as a business owner, growing a business or scaling a business, it gets lonely at the top. And this is an environment that you are never alone.
We become your advisory board. We actually will stand behind you. So when you take a step forward, guess what we do? We take a step forward so you can't go back. And so it's not just about business, it's about helping you be the best version of yourself.
So for businesses to really scale, the business owner has to move away from being a boss where they're micromanaging and telling people what to do, and basically then they have no life, to shifting into being a leader where they're empowering their team to stand up and take ownership so that they can take it and run with it, and the business owner actually then gets their life back.
And transformation is not an option when it comes to entrepreneurship. Transformation is required. As you grow your business, you get to a new level and you have to transform. As a person, as an organization, we're set apart because we help people transform. And that's probably our greatest challenge and our greatest strength.
Success is not created in a silo. Smart business owners know that if you want to get to the top, you have to work with someone that's been there, that's done it, that walks their talk. And so that you have this geo-force behind you and you get there in the fraction of the time. Having a coach is not just a luxury. It is one of the most important things that you can do to grow your business.